You're in your apartment alone. Then you hear something. You think, was it just the storm? You realize you're not alone. Your living room is not safe with Unhinged, the new immersive game experience brought to you by Netflix. To make it out alive, you must answer the phone. The question is, when your phone rings, will you answer? Tap the banner to play Unhinged now, only on Netflix.
Starting a business can seem like a daunting task, unless you have a partner like Shopify. They have the tools you need to start and grow your business. From designing a website to marketing to selling and beyond, Shopify can help with everything you need. There's a reason millions of companies like Mattel, Heinz, and Allbirds continue to trust and use them. With Shopify on your side, turn your big business idea into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
There are places where nature feels untouched by time. Places where ancient cypress trees rise from black water, where Spanish moss hangs like ghostly curtains, where every ripple in the water could be an alligator or something much, much stranger. Deep inside southeastern Louisiana lies one of America's oldest swamps, a place so wild that even today there are areas almost impossible to reach. Locals have whispered for generations about strange cries echoing through the trees. Hunters have found impossible footprints, and fishermen have reported something walking upright through knee-deep water. Tonight, we're headed deep into the mysterious Honey Island Swamp to uncover the legend of one of America's most fascinating cryptids, the Honey Island Swamp Monster. I'm your host, and this is Haunted America. Before we paddle into tonight's mystery, I want to thank every single one of you for making Haunted America part of your week. If you're enjoying the show, make sure you follow us on Facebook. That's where you'll find episode announcements, behind-the-scenes photos, historical images from our investigations, polls, bonus content, and previews of what's upcoming. We're also incredibly excited to announce our biggest project yet, Haunted America 50 States of Fear. Over the next 4 years, I believe this is going to take, we'll travel across every single state in America, uncovering its most haunted places, creepiest legends, forgotten ghost towns, mysterious creatures, and terrifying local folklore. And we'd love your help. If there's a haunted location, abandoned building, cemetery, legend, or cryptid from your hometown that deserves to be featured, send us an email at hauntedamericapodcast@gmail.com. That's hauntedamericapodcast@gmail.com. You can also send us your own ghost stories, paranormal encounters, unexplained experiences, or family legends. We may feature your story in future episodes. This series is for the Haunted America community, and we can't wait to hear from you. Now, grab a flashlight, stay out of the water, and let's head into one of the wildest places in Louisiana. There are very few places left in America that still feel truly untamed. Honey Island Swamp is one of them. Located between New Orleans and Mississippi state line, the swamp covers roughly 70,000 acres within the Pearl River floodplain. It forms part of one of the most ecologically diverse wetland systems in the southern Gulf. The swamp is filled with towering bald cypress trees, tupelo gum trees, winding bayous, marshes, hidden islands, and miles upon miles of murky water. It's home to hundreds species of wildlife. American alligators, wild boar, river otters, bobcats, black bears have occasionally wandered through nearby forests, snakes, owls, herons, you name it. Countless insects create an almost constant chorus after sunset. Even experienced outdoorsmen admit that once you're deep inside the swamp, it's easy to lose your bearings. GPS signals can become unreliable beneath dense tree cover. Many areas have no roads, no cell service, no houses, just endless water and forest. It's exactly the kind of place where legends are born. But before anyone ever spoke of a swamp monster, Honey Island already had a rich history stretching back thousands of years. Long before European explorers arrived, Native American peoples, including ancestors of today's Choctaw Nation, lived throughout the Pearl River region. They hunted deer, trapped small game, fished the rivers, and traveled the waterways by canoe. Archaeological evidence shows that people occupied the broader region for thousands of years, adapting to the wetlands and seasonal flooding. For these communities, the swamp was not just simply wilderness. It was a living landscape filled with practical resources and spiritual meaning. While modern stories sometimes claim ancient native traditions specifically describe the Honey Island swamp monster, there is no reliable historical evidence tying today's creature directly to pre-contact indigenous folklore. Many of those claims appear to be later embellishments rather than documented tradition. When French settlers entered Louisiana in the late 1600s and early 1700s, they encountered a landscape unlike anything they'd known in Europe. Navigating the maze of waterways proved difficult, and early maps often left large portions of the region blank or only roughly sketched. The swamp later became important for logging, trapping, and transportation. Cypress timber was especially valuable because of its resistance to rot, and logging camps pushed farther into the wetlands during the 19th and early 20th centuries. Working in these isolated camps could be dangerous. Besides the obvious threats from wildlife, workers dealt with sudden storms, hidden sinkholes, disease-carrying insects, and the ever-present risk of becoming lost. It didn't take much for unusual stories to spread. A strange noise at dusk, an unexplained footprint, something large splashing through the reeds. Around campfires, these stories grew with every retelling, but none had yet become the enduring legend we know today. That would change in the 1960s, thanks largely to one of Louisiana's outdoorsmen, whose name became forever linked to the Honey Island swamp monster. His name was Harlan Ford. Ford was no stranger to the swamp. A retired air traffic controller and an avid outdoorsman, he spent years exploring remote areas of southeastern Louisiana with his friend Billy Mills. They hunted, fished, and documented wildlife in places few others had visited. Then, in 1963, according to Ford's later accounts, everything changed. The two men claimed they encountered enormous footprints, unlike anything they had ever seen. At first, they assumed they belonged to a bear, but as they followed the tracks, something didn't make sense. The footprints appeared remarkably human in shape. Each print measured roughly 22 inches long. They showed distinct toes, and they suggested a creature walking upright. That discovery would lead to one of the most famous cryptid investigations in Louisiana history, and according to Ford, the footprints were only the beginning. When Harlan Ford and Billy Mills returned home after discovering the unusual tracks in 1963, they couldn't stop thinking about what they had seen. Ford wasn't interested in creating a hoax. Friends described him as practical, methodical, and deeply familiar with the outdoors. He had spent years navigating Louisiana's wetlands and believed he knew the difference between ordinary wildlife and something that deserved closer attention. So instead of simply telling stories, he began documenting what he had found. Over the following years, Ford made repeated trips into Honey Island Swamp, carefully noting locations, photographing tracks when possible, and making plaster casts of some of the footprints. Several of those casts still exist today and have been displayed at museums and exhibits focused on Louisiana folklore and cryptozoology. The footprints became one of the central pieces of evidence supporting this legend. But what exactly did they show? According to Ford, the tracks measured approximately 22 inches long and nearly 8 inches wide. They appear to have 4 prominent toes with a thumb-like projection on the side of the foot. Unlike a human footprint, there was little evidence of a distinct arch. Supporters argued these features suggested something neither human nor bear. Skeptics pointed out that footprints found in muddy swamps can easily become distorted. Water erosion, shifting mud, and repeated flooding can enlarge tracks or blur their original shape. A bear's hind foot can sometimes resemble a human footprint, especially when it overlaps the front foot as it walks. Even today, wildlife experts caution that tracks alone rarely provide enough evidence to identify an unknown species. Still, Ford remained convinced. He believed the tracks belonged to a large, bipedal creature, unlike anything officially recognized. Ford's most famous story didn't involve the footprints, though. It involved seeing the creature itself. According to accounts he later shared in interviews and documentaries, Ford and Billy Mills were exploring a remote section of the swamp when they noticed movement up ahead. Standing roughly 50 feet away was something neither man had expected. Ford described it as standing around 7 feet tall. Its body was covered in gray or brown hair. Its shoulders were broad. Its arms appeared unusually long, and its eyes reflected light as it stared back directly at them. The creature reportedly stood upright before moving through the vegetation with surprising speed. Ford had insisted that it wasn't a bear. He had seen many bears before. This one moved differently. It walked on 2 legs. It seemed almost curious before disappearing into the dense swamp. Importantly, there is no verified photograph of this encounter. No video, no independent witnesses, only Ford's account. That doesn't necessarily mean he fabricated the story, but it does mean historians and investigators must distinguish between eyewitness testimony and verifiable evidence. And that's one reason the Honey Island swamp monster remains a legend rather than a scientifically confirmed animal. As word of Ford's experiences spread throughout southern Louisiana, the story took on a life of its own. Hunters began sharing stories of their own strange experiences. Commercial fishermen reported hearing heavy footsteps in areas where no people should have been. Trappers claimed they had seen large shapes moving through trees just after sunset. Some described hearing loud screams unlike any known animal. Others reported finding freshly broken branches nearly 10 feet above the ground. Of course, like most of the things we talk about here on this show, stories often grow in the telling. Hunters might describe hearing something unusual. A neighbor retells the story, adding another random detail. By the 3rd or 4th retelling, the unknown noise becomes a towering monster. That's just how folklore often evolves. Yet, despite this natural tendency, reports continued appearing over the years. Enough that the Honey Island swamp monster became one of Louisiana's best-known cryptid legends. Props to the person that comments, if you're listening on Spotify, to what the other best-known Louisiana cryptid is. I already did an episode of it before. You can go back and listen to it. Props to the first person that comments it, though, on Spotify. So what does this creature supposedly look like? We talked about a little bit of what he described it as looking like here, but descriptions vary. But certain details appear repeatedly. Witnesses commonly describe this creature as standing between 6 and 7 feet tall, covered in gray, brown, or reddish hair, walking upright, possessing unusually long arms, having broad shoulders, emitting a powerful or unpleasant odor, leaving oversized footprints, and moving quietly despite its size. Anybody think that this description sounds close to something else that we've covered on this podcast? Or like another well-known cryptid? Huh? This is just Louisiana's version of the Bigfoot. Some witnesses also describe glowing amber or orange eyes at night, although eye shine is common among many animals when illuminated by flashlight or vehicle headlights. Others say the creature has a long, sloping forehead with no visible neck. Interestingly, unlike many Bigfoot reports from the Pacific Northwest, the Honey Island swamp monster is often described as slimmer and more agile, perhaps reflecting the dense wetlands where it is said to live.
Visible puts the ultimate wireless hack in the palm of your hand. With unlimited 5G wireless data and hotspot designed to keep you connected, powered by Verizon's 5G network. And no contract holding you back. Plans start at $25 a month, or get the premium Visible Plus Pro plan and save $10 on your first month when you use promo code HACK. Make the switch at Visible.com. Terms apply. See Visible.com for details.
Many cryptozoologists believe the Honey Island swamp monster belongs to the same category as the legendary Bigfoot or Sasquatch, reported across North America. Thousands of Bigfoot sightings have been reported in the United States and Canada over the past century. Descriptions often include tall, hairy, human-like appearance, walking upright, large footprint, strong odor, elusive behavior, and remote habitats. Honey Island shares many of those characteristics. However, there are also important differences. Unlike the mountainous forests associated with many Bigfoot sightings, Honey Island is a low-lying wetland filled with water, marshes, and thick vegetation. If an unknown primate were somehow living there, it would need to be exceptionally well adapted to swamp conditions. No bones, no bodies, no DNA accepted by the scientific community, no confirmed nests, no verified hair samples. Despite decades of searching, none of the physical evidence required to establish a new species has ever been found. The absence is one of the strongest arguments made by skeptics. One of the most enduring tales connected to the Honey Island swamp monster isn't supported by historical evidence, but it's so widespread that it deserves mention. According to the legend, a circus train had crashed near Honey Island Swamp sometime in the early 20th century. The story claims that several chimpanzees escaped into the swamp. Over generations, these escaped apes supposedly bred with the local alligator population, or evolved into the mysterious swamp creature. Now, when I was doing research and putting this together, that part had me dying laughing. I hope somebody out there giggled at least at that a little bit with me, because Louisiana truly is a different place. Moving on. This certainly makes for an unforgettable campfire story, but biologically it is impossible. Chimpanzees cannot breed with reptiles. There is also no credible historical documentation of such a train wreck leading to escaped primates in Honey Island Swamp. While trains did travel through southeastern Louisiana, historians have found no evidence supporting this origin story. Most researchers view it as folklore that developed long after the monster legend became popular. Still, the tale continues to circulate because it's memorable, bizarre, and uniquely Louisiana. Sometimes the stories people tell about a legend become legends of their own. Whether the creature is an undiscovered animal, a misidentified bear, a product of just straight up Louisiana folklore, or simply the power of imagination in one of America's wildest landscapes, the reports have never completely stopped. By the 1970s and 1980s, the Honey Island swamp monster had become more than just a local campfire tale. It was now one of Louisiana's most recognizable cryptid legends. And if you're still listening, I'm gonna just go ahead and tell you what the other one is. The Rougarou. Stories appeared in newspapers, local television segments, and books about unexplained phenomenon. Visitors began arriving in southeastern Louisiana hoping to catch a glimpse of the mysterious creature for themselves. Unlike legends that fade with time, the Honey Island swamp monster seemed to grow stronger with every decade. Why? Part of the answer lies in the swamp itself. Honey Island swamp is enormous, difficult to navigate, and in many places, largely unchanged from what early settlers would have experienced. Dense vegetation limits visibility to just a few yards in some areas. Sounds travel strangely across the water. A splash or an animal call can seem much closer or much further away than it really is. It's simply just an environment that can make even experienced outdoorsmen question what they've just seen. Although Harlan Ford's experience and encounters remain the most famous, they are far from the only reported associated with the swamp creature. Over the years, hunters have described hearing heavy footsteps pacing them through the trees. Fishermen have reported seeing large figures standing motionless on distant banks before disappearing into the brush. And boaters have claimed to hear deep growls echoing across the water late at night. Some witnesses have reported an overwhelming smell, often described as a mixture of wet animal, rotting vegetation, and sulfur. Disgusting. That particular detail is interesting because it's actually commonly reported in alleged Bigfoot sightings across North America. However, it's important to remember that swamps naturally produce strong odors, which is so true. It is... Listen, okay, I'm going on a rant for a second. Since moving down here, it rains constantly. My front yard is a swamp in its own. 6 days out of 7 during the week. And when it rains and then the sun comes out and it's hot, it's 100 degrees, it's muggy, you can't breathe when you stop. It boils, it bakes, it's disgusting. The smell of the mud is just like, eh. Anyways, decaying plant matter, stagnant water, sulfur-producing bacteria, and marsh gases can create unpleasant smells that have perfectly natural explanations. Separating environmental conditions from eyewitness interpretation is one of the biggest challenges in investigating stories like these. As interest in paranormal television grew in the late 1990s and early 2000s, the Honey Island swamp monster became the focus of several of these investigations. Shows centered on cryptids, unexplained mysteries, and folklore visited the swamp, interviewing local residents and examining Harlan Ford's footprint casts. These investigations often featured nighttime excursions with thermal cameras, audio recorders, and infrared equipment. Viewers would hear unexplained noises, branches snapping, something splashing just beyond the reach of the flashlight. But despite dramatic television moments, which we all know happen, no investigation has ever produced conclusive evidence of an unknown creature living in the swamp. No clear photographs, no DNA as we talked about earlier, no remains. The mystery has endured, but it has remained just that, a mystery. To understand why sightings continue, it helps to understand the environment a little bit more. As we talked about earlier, Honey Island Swamp is part of the Pearl River ecosystem, one of the most biologically rich wetland regions in the southeastern United States. Another rundown of the animals here: it supports an incredible variety of wildlife. Alligators, deer, hogs, otters, raccoons, coyotes, bobcats, birds, hundreds of reptiles and amphibians. Although black bears are uncommon within the swamp itself, today the nearby region has historically been home to the Louisiana black bear, a subspecies of the American black bear. Conservation efforts have helped stabilize its population in parts of Louisiana. A bear can stand upright even briefly. It can appear startling, from a distance. Poor lighting, dense vegetation, fear, and distance can all affect perception. Scientists call this, drumroll, misidentification. And it's one of the most common explanations offered for cryptid sightings around the world. There's another psychological phenomenon worth discussing here. It's called, and I am going to butcher this one, pareidolia? Pareidolia? Listen, I typed it in Google. I tried getting it to pronounce it for me. I still can't get it. All right. However, this word that I can't explain, maybe you guys can't, is our brain's tendency to recognize familiar patterns, especially faces and human shapes in random objects. It's why people see faces in clouds, figures standing in the shadows, or human forms among trees. In a swamp where visibility is limited and your senses are heightened, pareidolia, there we go, can become incredibly powerful. Imagine standing alone in chest-high fog. You hear something move, and then you catch a glimpse of a dark shape moving between two cypress trees. Your brain immediately tries to identify it, and sometimes it gets it wrong. That doesn't mean witnesses are lying. It means human perception is far more complex than we often realize. Cryptozoologists have long debated whether an undiscovered large primate could exist in North America. Supporters argue that vast wilderness areas remain underexplored and that elusive animals have been discovered before. History often offers examples. The mountain gorilla was unknown to Western science until the early 20th century. The okapi, often called the African unicorn, was also unknown to many scientists until relatively recently. But there's an important distinction. Those animals left physical evidence, like we talked about earlier. Bodies, bones, skins, DNA, living populations. By contrast, no comparable evidence has ever been produced for Bigfoot or the Honey Island swamp monster. But I guess you could argue the footprints, right? The casts. If a breeding population of 7-foot-tall primates existed in Louisiana, scientists would expect to at least find some biological evidence after decades of searching, right? The absence of that evidence remains the strongest scientific argument against the creature's existence. Whether the monster exists physically is only part of the story. Legends serve another purpose. They become part of a community's identity. For generations, families living near Honey Island Swamp have shared stories about mysterious lights, strange sounds, and unexplained encounters. Children grow up hearing the legend. Tour guides tell visitors about it. Local artists paint it. Gift shops sell t-shirts featuring it. It's true, I have one. The Honey Island swamp monster has become woven into Louisiana's cultural fabric. In that sense, the creature is very real, not necessarily as a biological species, but as a living piece of American folklore. One of the reasons this legend continues to fascinate people is because it exists in a place where uncertainty feels possible. Unlike a busy city street, Honey Island Swamp still contains stretches of wilderness where humans rarely venture. Stand quietly on a boardwalk at sunset. Listen as the daylight fades. The frogs begin calling. An alligator slips silently beneath the water. A barred owl lets out its haunting cry. Something splashes just beyond the reeds, but you can't see what caused it. Maybe it was a fish. Maybe it was a deer crossing a shallow channel. Or maybe Your imagination starts filling in the blanks. That uncertainty is the heartbeat of every great cryptid legend.
Hey, Fidelity. Can I get a second opinion on stocks in the Fidelity app?
With Fidelity, it's easy to get an outside opinion from independent experts in a single score.
And then?
When you're ready, trade U.S. stocks and ETFs with no commissions.
That's right.
I am always right.
Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. $0 commission does not apply to customers designated by Fidelity as a professional equity trader. A limited number of ETFs are subject to a service fee of $100. See details at fidelity.com/commissions. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE SIPC.
Now, by now, we've explored the history of the Honey Island Swamp, eyewitness accounts, the famous footprint cast, and the theories that have kept this legend alive for more than 6 decades. So where does that leave us? If you ask wildlife biologists, the answer is fairly straightforward. There is no scientifically verified evidence that an unknown 7-foot-tall primate lives in southeastern Louisiana. No skeletal remains have ever been recovered. No DNA has ever been accepted. No clear, authenticated photograph or video has withstood careful scrutiny. From a scientific perspective, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And sadly, that evidence has never simply materialized. But science isn't always trying to answer the same question as folklore. Scientists ask, what can we prove? Folklore asks, why has this story endured? Those are 2 very different questions. One of the most fascinating aspects of the Honey Island Swamp Monster isn't whether it's real. It's why so many sincere people believe they've seen it. Most eyewitnesses have nothing to gain. Many are experienced hunters, fishermen, or lifelong residents of the area. These are people who know what alligators look like, and quite frankly, aren't afraid to go up and touch them, which is just crazy to me. They call them swamp puppies. Like, that's just crazy. They know what black bears are. They know what wild hogs look like. Many insist they saw something that didn't fit any known animal. That doesn't automatically make their conclusions correct, but it does make their experiences worth listening to. History is full of examples where eyewitness, honestly, they report something they couldn't explain. Sometimes that mystery was eventually solved. Sometimes it wasn't. The Honey Island Swamp Monster remains in that second category. Honey Island Swamp presents unique obstacles for anyone hoping to solve that mystery. Unlike open forests or grasslands, visibility is extremely limited. The terrain changes constantly with seasonal flooding. Tracks can disappear within hours. Heavy rain washes away evidence. Dense vegetation blocks cameras. Humidity wreaks havoc. Oh my God, the humidity on electronic equipment. Even drones have limited usefulness beneath the thick canopy of the cypress trees. If someone or something wanted to remain hidden, there are a few places in the American South better suited for it. Still, investigators have returned again and again. Professional wildlife researchers, cryptozoologists, television crews, curious locals, none have found conclusive proof. Yet, none have completely erased the mystery either. The Honey Island Swamp Monster doesn't exist in isolation. Louisiana has long been home to stories that blend history, culture, and the unexplained. The state is rich with tales of haunted plantations, mysterious lights over remote bayous, ghost ships along the Gulf Coast, and creatures said to roam the wetlands. Many of these stories reflect the state's unique blend of French, Spanish, African, Native American, and Acadian influences. Legends often served practical purposes. Parents warned children not to wander too far into dangerous swamps. Hunters respected areas where accidents had occurred. Communities passed down stories that mixed real dangers with supernatural elements. Whether intentional or not, these tales encouraged caution in landscapes that could be unforgiving. Honey Island Swamp itself is genuinely hazardous. Strong currents, deep water, venomous snakes, swamp puppies, alligators, and sudden storms pose very real risks. You don't need a monster to make the swamp dangerous. Nature handles that job just fine. Some researchers have suggested that isolated sightings could be explained by uncommon but natural events. A black bear standing upright. An unusually large feral hog glimpsed through dense vegetation. A person just simply seen at a distance. Optical illusions created by fog and shifting light. Others point to a powerful effect of expectation. Once people know a place has a monster legend, they're more likely to interpret sights and sounds through that lens. Psychologic, you know what? They just call it expectation bias. If you ever encounter anything while entering Honey Island Swamp, just know that a monster might be watching you. Every snapping branch, every splash, every shadow takes on a new meaning. And just keep your eyes to the ground as well as up. It could definitely be an alligator. Whether you believe Harlan Ford encountered an unknown creature or simply just misidentified something in difficult conditions, there's no denying his impact. Without Ford's determination to document what he believed he had seen, the Honey Island Swamp Monster might have just remained another local story told around campfires. Instead, it became one of the most famous cryptid legends in the United States. His footprint casts continue to spark debate. His interviews remain a valuable part of Louisiana folklore, and his willingness to speak publicly ensured that the legend would survive long after his passing. Ford never claimed to have all the answers. He simply maintained that he had reported what he experienced. That honesty, whether one agrees with his conclusions or not, is part of why his story continues to resonate. There's something timeless about places like Honey Island Swamp. In the age of satellites, smartphones, and constant connectivity, it's comforting to know that parts of the world still feel mysterious. Places where darkness falls a little bit deeper, where silence feels heavier, where every ripple across black water invites a question. Maybe the Honey Island Swamp Monster is nothing more than folklore passed from one generation to the next. Maybe every sighting has a perfectly ordinary explanation. Or maybe, just maybe, there are still corners of America where nature holds on to a few secrets. Until someone returns with undeniable evidence, the Honey Island Swamp Monster will remain exactly what it has been for generations. A legend balanced delicately between fact and mystery. And perhaps that's where it belongs. Thank you for joining me on this journey into one of Louisiana's most enduring mysteries. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, be sure to follow Haunted America wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget to leave us a review, please. It really helps more people discover the show. You can also join our growing community by following Haunted America on Facebook. Eventually, I'll get to it. I said this in an episode probably a couple days ago, depending on when I decided to upload it. I'm really bad at social media. It's something I have to get better at because this podcast is growing at a crazy rate the past couple months, and my social media game is just not on par to where it should be. Anyways, but that is where we will be sharing historic photos, more behind the scenes content, episode announcements, and discussions about the stories we cover. I would like to eventually be able to start going live and answering questions and getting, feedback and stuff from you guys. I think that would be pretty cool. And don't forget, our biggest project yet is on the horizon, guys. Haunted America, 50 States of Fear. This project is going to span, I think, like 4.5 years, something like that. Every month, we're going to be covering a different state, We're going to have like 8 or more episodes a month coming out just about different haunted locations, eerie legends, forgotten history, mysterious creatures, chilling paranormal stories, and I would really appreciate your guys' help building this upcoming series. If there's a haunted location, local legend, abandoned building, cemetery, battlefield, or a cryptid from your hometown that deserves to be featured, send me an email. Our email is hauntedamericapodcast@gmail.com. And if you yourself have had a paranormal encounter, a ghostly experience, unexplained sighting, or a family story that is passed down through generations, we would love to hear it. Your story could be featured in a future episode. Until next time, keep your flashlight close, trust your instincts, and remember, sometimes the scariest thing isn't what you see. It's what disappears before you can prove it was ever there. I'm your host, and this has been Haunted America. We'll see you next time.
The GLP-1 pill you've been waiting for is now on Ro. Yep, it's finally here. With the same clinically proven ingredient, now in a pill, and now on Ro. It's the first FDA-approved GLP-1 pill for weight loss at the lowest price available. That's one daily GLP-1 pill for big results. Now on Ro. Go to ro.co/listen to see if you qualify. RX only. Go to ro.co/safety for serious side effects and boxed warning associated with GLP-1s.
Ouch. This knee is killing me, but I can't stop training. The marathon is in 2 weeks.
Let's get on ZocDoc and find a doctor to take a look at that for you.
Okay.
Here's a review. Dr. Craddock really takes his time.
No, I don't have time.
What about Dr. Charles? His patients say he can help find a quick fix, and he's in network.
Great, now we're talking. Book it.
Booked. 1 mile down, 19 to go.
Bring it on.
You've got options. Download the ZocDoc app today.